Nearly 1 out of 100 people in the United States are in prison at any given time. 2 out of 100 adults are under some form of correctional supervision. For men, it's 4 out of 100. For Black men, 5 out of 100. And for Black men without a high school diploma, 66 out of 100 will be in some action or some connection to the criminal justice system by the age of 30. We have witnessed a massive 500% increase in the correctional population over the last 50 years in this country. For a country that prides itself on freedom, we lock more of our own citizens up than any other country in the world. Our country is enthralled with punishment. We believe if we lock people up quicker, more consistently, and for longer periods of time, our communities will become safer. Unfortunately, the evidence just doesn't support this. Research is actually pretty clear. Punishment-based strategies show no reduction in people returning to crime. Let me give you an example of how that might work. How many of you speak French fluently? I'm going to give you until the end of this presentation, so you have a few minutes, and if you're speaking French fluently, by the end of this, you get to stay. And if you're not, you're going to jail. And you're spending the night in jail, 1 day. And at the end of that 1 day, if you're not speaking French fluently, we'll give you 2 days, then 4 days, then 8 days, and 16 days. Because in our country, we believe if we just punish you harder, you'll eventually do what we want you to do. You will comply. But the truth is, you go to jail, you don't learn French. You learn all sorts of other shit, but not French. Right? And so what if you weren't motivated to speak French? What if you couldn't? What if we didn't have French teachers in jail? How much punishment would I have to give you to be able to successfully speak French to avoid the consequence? In a recent poll, 72% of our country believes the criminal justice system is failing. Nearly half or over half of them believe it's not tough enough, while 14% believe that it's too tough. But what if eliminating crime has nothing to do with how tough we are on crime or the people who commit it? What if we actually are looking at the wrong metric to solve the problem? I'm going to ask you to suspend what you know about the criminal justice system for a few minutes and go on a journey with me. A journey with me on how the criminal justice system works and what we could do to significantly improve the outcomes for people. But first, I want to introduce you to Alex. Alex is at 20 years old. He was sentenced to probation for stealing a car. He was caught in a cycle of poverty and addicted to drugs. Alex found himself unemployed, serious substance use issue, and houseless. With limited resources, he routinely hung out at the local gas station asking people for money. One night, a particularly cold evening in November, Alex decided, I better take a car tonight or I might freeze. And so a car pulls in, waited for them, pulled in, pumped gas, and that person unexpectedly walks into the store to pay for some food or some chips, and Alex jumps in the car and takes off. His plan was to use the car to get warm and have one night of peaceful sleep. Unfortunately for Alex, he was picked up within the hour and taken to jail. And from there, he was shuffled back, arraigned, remained in jail, ordered to pay $25,000 bond. Alex doesn't have any money, he has no place to live, but somehow he was going to afford $25,000 or 10% of that to be released from jail. So instead he sat there, shuffled back and forth from jail to court, court to jail, jail to court, meeting eventually with his public defender, who didn't remember even his name. He was caught up in the cycle of the criminal justice system, and there was no off-ramp. He realized that he was on a conveyor belt and was just being shuffled along. Alex was eventually ordered to probation. While on probation, he was required to follow 37 conditions of supervision. His probation officer, while Alex was excited to have him to help him figure out how to move forward in his life, his probation officer actually explained to him on day one that his job was to enforce the 37 conditions and report any violation back to the court. To Alex, some of them made sense, right? So some of them were get a substance use issue or go to substance abuse treatment, stop using drugs, get a house, have stable housing or stable employment. But some of them missed the mark to Alex. He didn't understand. Complete 160 hours of community service. So Alex is thinking to himself, I don't have a job, now I gotta work for free? I gotta do 4 weeks of labor for free to be on supervision, and I have to pay $85 a month for someone to watch me? Didn't make a whole lot of sense. He wasn't allowed to leave the invisible county line without his PO written permission. If he went across it to go to work or to treatment, it was a violation of his conditions of supervision and could end up in jail or prison for that. He was ordered to tell the truth. That was one of his conditions, was to tell the truth. If he lied to his PO, he was facing a probation violation and again could end up in prison. My family's here. If that was true, and imagine that, like I would be in prison or probation all the time for lying. My 17-year-old, his ass would be up the street. After the initial meeting with his PO, it became really clear to Alex. Probation was built with tripwires to catch him failing instead of stairs for success. Alex's story is just one of many that shed the light on our criminal justice system and the flaws of it. But this isn't just about a single person. It's about a systemic failure that demands our attention and our expertise. It demands our time and thinking about how we reflect on the system and improve it for the people who move through it. We need to create a system that holds people accountable, but still provides them with the support and opportunities needed to reintegrate into society and break the cycle of incarceration. For more than 30 years, I've watched the people who work in the system get chewed up and eaten up. We have amazing people who work in it who just want to help people be successful. And they end up getting caught in the system of refereeing or the system of failing folks, and then simultaneously failing thousands or hundreds of thousands of people who move through our system who are just trying to follow the rules. We need to do better. So you can see why our criminal justice system feels broken. The system catches people failing or catches people who are struggling, puts them in a system, gives them a set of rules, watches them, blows the whistle when they fail, and gives them a penalty. Unfortunately, over the past 30 years, I've come to realize that our system actually isn't broken. It is designed to get exactly what it gets. It has been built on a flawed system of what we call refereeing. Refereeing, think about what a referee does. I want you to think about a football game briefly, and some of you may not be familiar with football, that's okay. Referees work for the league. They stand on the sideline watching the game sort of evolve, watching for people failing, catching them, breaking the rules, blowing a whistle, and moving forward or throwing a flag and giving a penalty. Referees work for the league. They don't favor any one team. They're trained to remain impartial. They're designed to have no win or loss, no investment in the outcome. They don't have a win-loss record unless you're a Bengals fan and you know that they cost them the Super Bowl. Right? In fact, if they affect the outcome of the game, we actually believe that that referee is not doing their job. They're not professional because they're impartial or they're not impartial. So let's check back with Alex. When Alex was arrested, he was unemployed, unhoused, and had a significant substance use problem. And instead of giving him a referee or giving him a person who's there to help him win, we give him a referee and 37 rules to follow. They watch him, catch him, and incarcerate him or violate him or punish him if he doesn't do what he's supposed to do. Look, don't get me wrong. We need referees. We need someone to enforce rules, monitor behavior, and issue penalties. If we didn't have referees, we'd be playing golf, right? And so referees have no role in helping, building, or motivating players to improve. If someone sits down on the field, a referee just kicks them out of the game. If they quit playing, the referee doesn't care. And so the job of a referee is to ultimately control the game. Unfortunately, that's exactly how our correction system is designed. We've placed referees at every stage of the correction system. Probation officers, correction officers, parole officers, all of them are asked or tasked to do the same thing. Monitor behavior, catch people failing. When someone is caught failing, the corrections officer is just doing their job. They're just reflecting what they see. Just like a referee in a football game, if someone's committing a penalty, they don't show them how to do it better. They blow a whistle, they issue a penalty, and they say, play on. When Alex called his probation officer and was going to tell him or told him that he was going to be late to his next appointment, his probation officer looked up the rule in the book and said, if you miss your appointment, 3 hours of community service, more free labor. When he couldn't get to treatment, his officers sent him to jail for 3 days. And ultimately, when he couldn't stop using drugs in a 3-month period of time, 6 positive UAs in 3 months, they sent him to prison. Remember when we said the system is designed to get exactly the way it gets or the things it gets? Well, that's what we're talking about. Alex gets put on probation for stealing a car. We find out he's unemployed, unhoused, with a serious substance use issue. And instead of giving him a coach, we arrest him for being unhoused, have a serious substance use issue, and unemployed. He's sent to prison because he was unable to live within the rules of probation immediately. We barely gave him enough time. So Alex goes to prison for 18 months. He's placed in a dormitory settings, required to work for 68 cents an hour. He's placed on 19 months of supervision, he's placed on a wait list for 19 months. Remember, his sentence is only 18, so he gets out with $264 in his pocket, still homeless, unemployed, with a serious substance use issue. This is why 70% of people who go to prison leave and get rearrested within 5 years of release. So what's the solution? We give people referees when they actually need a coach. A coach's role is uniquely different than a referee. Where the referee has a rule book, the coach has a playbook. Where the referee has impartiality, the coach has a coaching connection. Where the referee has procedural justice, a coach creates an individualized plan based on the skills, potential of the player, and challenges in front of them. A coach's role is to guide, support, encourage, motivate, and teach. They take kids who are struggling and never played the game and teach them to play. They take kids with raw talent and help them win. They support players who are struggling and help them find their way. They pick them up after a loss and they celebrate the wins. Coaches inspire. They build connections. They create game plans. They hold players accountable. By the way, what do we call a coach that doesn't hold someone accountable? A Dallas Cowboys coach. No, just kidding, an ex-coach for the Cowboy fans here, right? An ex-coach. They get fired if they don't hold people accountable. So imagine instead of giving Alex a probation referee or a probation officer, we would have given him a probation coach. The first thing Alex's coach is going to do is build a coaching connection. They're going to build trust and rapport. They're here to help, instead of saying they're here to help enforce the rules, they're going to tell Alex, I'm here to help you live within them. A significantly different shift. It's we versus us versus them. The coaching connection is vital for the success of a player. For any change to happen, we must have a good relationship with that person. We must create a connection. Alex must trust the coach that cares about him. So next, the coach is here to know how to win, help him win. For Alex, that means his coach would assess his potential, understanding his strengths and identifying the barriers or the challenges in front of him. Alex was using drugs for 7 years. He was houseless and unemployed, but he also found a way to graduate high school. And he has a friend who lets him hang out on the couch or couch surf for a while. They know when to put their arm around a player and help him through a struggle, and they know when to pull him out of the game. When Alex began to struggle, the probation referee had one course of action: send him to prison. The penalty for missing an office visit, remaining unemployed for 3 months, and testing positive 6 times, prison. The probation referee was just doing their job. But the probation coach's job is different. Find a way to help Alex win. For our criminal justice system to be effective in the ways we respond to crime, we have to fully reimagine the way it operates. Instead of employing a set of people in uniforms with rule books, we may want to think about hiring coaches with clipboards and game plans. I've been a coach for 30 years. I've coached youth sports. I've coached people who have moved through our criminal justice system and those that work with it and around it. To be successful, I've adopted my own coaching philosophy. I believe that individuals can learn and grow. Second, I need to continuously develop a playbook designed to help them win. I have to recognize, to have the greatest impact, I got to notice or understand that people we work with are human beings with strengths, barriers, needs, living within systems and cultures who are trying their best. Focusing on progress and not perfection is how we grow. And remembering people, as we invest in time and resources, we must invest in them. And I have to connect to what I do, or connect what I do to purpose. Ultimately, for our criminal justice system to reach its full potential, we must employ coaches to help people win, not referees to catch them failing.